whatever camera you have, get it ready because we're about to make our first short film together. You're at the Indie Lot, and this is the Filmmakers Boot Camp. So we've gotten to the module now where we're going to start working on our short film called Wrong Number. Don't forget the things we've already talked about. We started off in this series talking about coverage. Remember, in coverage, we're using angles and shot types to cover our scene. We don't want to mix up angles and be jumping over the circle. Remember when we discussed the 180-degree rule. So you want to choose a side and you want to stick to it. Okay? Remember your angles combined with your shot types. Your shot types would be things like close-ups and long shots and point of view shots and over the shoulder, things of that nature. Okay, the other thing we talked about with coverage is the idea that ideally we want to start off by covering our scene with 3 different angles, 3 different shot types, that all the 3 angles are very different from each other, the shot types are very different from each other, and we cover our scene from start to finish, okay? We want to get it all the way through. That way, when we get to post and we're editing, we know that we've got enough frames to cleanly cut together the different angles that we've captured. The other thing we wanted to consider when we're shooting, and not just with the coverage from start to finish, but with the extra shots that we might get, we want to make sure we get more than we think we're going to need. That way, again, we always know we got enough frames. Now, after you get your first 3 coverage shots from start to finish and you're moving into those other shot types, you don't necessarily have to get from start to finish, but just remember to get more than what you need. You don't want to get into post, especially after everyone's gone home and all the equipment's been torn down. You really can't bring everybody back and reset up everything and reshoot. Just make sure you get enough. Get more than what you think you're going to need. That way you're covered later when you get into post. We also talked about FALL, our acronym FALL, framing. Remember, we talked about, well, we already kind of mentioned it, the 180-degree rule that's helping us establish our angles by shooting 3 angles from one side of that circle. But we also talked about the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds will help you frame the content that the camera is going to capture once you hit that record button. We also then talked about audio. Remember, you want to think about an audio capturing device, whether that be as simple as your iPhone or some smartphone, right, where you have an audio recording application. Remember how we talked about you could also use the headphones with the little mic attachment on it and use it like a lapel mic. Or you may own mics or have the ability to get some microphones, okay? Just whatever you use, just remember what you want to do is you want to get that microphone or that audio capturing device as close to your talent's mouth as possible, of course keeping it out of shot. We talked about getting lights into your scene, right, so you have good exposure, and we talked about lenses, okay? You may or may not have all that stuff, and your lack of those things, I don't want that to keep you from shooting a film or shooting this film. Okay, we're trying to learn here together, and so what I want you to do is however you can do it with whatever you've got. You've of course have got to at least have a camera, some kind of camera. Again, whether it's a smartphone, a DSLR, or some other type of camcorder or whatever it might be. For microphones, because of the nature of how this short film is going to go, you actually could get away using your smartphone as the microphone. Just simply turn on a recording device, recording application on your phone, and then before you film your scene where you're going to capture the dialogue, just turn that app on, get it all set up, and you can literally talk into it because the lines are going to be simple as hello, I think you have the wrong number, that's okay. You'll see how easy the lines are, but you can actually just record it straight into your phone, and then you'll bring that into post later and doctor it up as necessary, to get it sounding right for your film. So it doesn't have to be very difficult, but I would highly encourage you, if you've got mics or you have a way to set up your phone as a mic, go ahead and do that just so you can get the practice. If you have an actor that can play the part, that's even better, because then you can just hold your phone. You don't have to set up a tripod or anything like that. But if you're by yourself, don't let that stop you. Set up some kind of tripod system, or lean your phone against some books. Or I've done this before, where I've actually taken my DSLR and set it on a stack of books to get it elevated a little bit, and got it all aimed and pointing in the right direction, focused, etc. Thing is, let's not let any lack of what we have keep us from doing a film. Let's just do it together here. Any of those things we've talked about that you can use, whether that's lights and mics and whatever, if you've got that stuff, excellent. Get it set up, start practicing using it. So what we're going to start with, I'm going to first show you my version of Wrong Number. And remember, we're starting with the idea of coverage, so expect 3 different angles, 3 different shot types, where I shoot from start to finish. What I'll do is I'll show you my version of each take, and then what you can do is stop the training and then take care of yours, okay? And what we're after is, you don't have to do it exactly the same as me, but I want you to try to get at least close, okay? And just again, keep in mind the things we discussed about the 180-degree rule and the rule of thirds, and you should be fine. But, if you're having a hard time thinking fast enough about those things, don't worry about it. Try to mimic what I've done, and just do that, and you'll be fine, okay? And the more you do it, the more it's going to become more intuitive to you, and you'll be able to think of things faster. And you may have some other creative ideas that I didn't think of. I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible and get you started. So here comes my shot number 1. Hello? I think you have the wrong number. It's okay. Okay, so that was my shot number 1. Now I want you to pause this training, and you go ahead and you take care of your shot number 1. Welcome back. So how'd you do? Hopefully you're having a good time with this, and you're able to get a take for shot number 1 that you're pleased with. Remember, if things feel awkward, remember what we talked about early on in our sessions. We talked about how redundancy or repetition helps make things feel more natural. And if your talent is having a hard time acting, just do more takes. Keep doing some takes until they kind of settle into it. Or if you're being the actor, do several takes until you settle into it, and try to get yourself a take that you're pleased with. But assuming you've got a take you're pleased with, let's go ahead. Let's move on to our next shot. Okay. Now remember, again, in coverage, we're talking about angles and shot types. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move our camera. We're going to capture a different angle, and we're going to also change the distance of our camera. We're going to change the amount of the view that our character fills in the camera. Okay, we want to make it very different from the first one. Okay, we don't want to get things that are too similar and look too much alike. Okay, and so here is my take number 2. Have a watch, and then you'll get to do yours. Hello? I think you have the wrong number. It's all right. Bye. Okay, so that was my take number 2. Next is you. Go ahead and pause this training. Get your second shot, your second angle. All right. Hopefully you're getting the hang of this. Here is my shot number 3. Hello? I think you have the wrong number. It's okay. That was my shot number 3. Now it's your turn. Go ahead and get your third shot. Remember, we're still talking coverage, so we're getting from start to finish. All right, how'd you do? You should by now have 3 different shots, 3 angles, 3 different shot types. They should all be very different from each other. Hopefully you've adhered to the 180-degree rule. Everything's done on one side of the circle, and hopefully everything's is working and flowing for you, okay? Now the next thing we want to consider, just like in the film with my niece, just because I can, she was playing the game and it seemed like a natural thing to just go over the shoulder and get her actually playing the game. So our character has been reading from this paper. Now would be a great time to do an over the shoulder shot where we can actually show what our character is looking at. Okay. Now remember, we've already gotten our coverage, so there's no need to get any more coverage at this point. But I do want to remind you, get more than you think you're going to need. That way you just have enough to work with in post when you get there. So here is my over the shoulder shot. All right, so that was my over the shoulder. Now go ahead and reposition your gear and go ahead and take care of your over the shoulder. We could stop here, but there's actually one more shot that I'd like to get because as I was reviewing mine, I realized that the camera was still kind of far from that paper and it was difficult to actually see what was on the paper. In my particular case, I would just like to add this extra shot for training's sake, as well as maybe there's something on that paper that I really wanted my viewer to see, and if I were to stop here, they may have missed it because it's kind of hard to read. So the next shot type that I'm going to do for my film is I'm going to do what's called a point of view shot. A point of view shot is going to be, it's going to make it seem like I'm looking at this paper through my character's eyes. It may not be exact, but that's the idea. We're going to have a look at that paper as if we're looking at it through our character's eyes. You can see my point of view shot here. It's actually a little too low than where my eyes would technically be, but it still serves the purpose. I'm now pushed in closer on that paper, and the viewer probably, without even thinking about it, understands that this is something that the character is seeing through their own eyes. And this is called a point of view shot. Okay, so here we go. We've captured our 3 coverage shots. We've got an over the shoulder. We've captured a point of view shot. If you went ahead and added that into yours, maybe you thought of some other types of shots that you could get. Hopefully you did, and you've added those in and have captured them. If not, and you have other ideas, pause this training, go ahead and capture them. We're done filming, and we can strike our set and clean up our equipment and take it into post. In our next modules, we're going to start talking about how to edit. I'm going to show you my process of editing. We're going to talk about color correction and color grading. We are going to talk about something called Foley, where we're going to be adding some sound effects into our scene. So we still got a lot more to go. I hope you're enjoying this. Again, thank you for joining me here at the IndieLot in this Filmmakers Boot Camp, and I'll see you in the next module.